The massive crystal spires of Zephyria Prime gleamed under the twin suns, casting rainbow patterns across the diplomatic complex where humanity's fate would be decided. Ambassador Elena Vesquez adjusted her formal uniform one last time as she walked through the towering corridors, her footsteps echoing against walls that seemed to pulse with alien energy. Behind her, a small entourage of Earth's finest diplomats and military advisors followed in tense silence. This was it. After 3 years of escalating conflicts across 17 star systems, the Galactic Coalition had finally agreed to peace negotiations. The Coalition was a massive alliance of 47 alien species that had dominated this region of space for over 2 millennia. Humanity, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 60 years ago, was considered nothing more than an upstart species that had grown too bold too quickly. Elena entered the vast negotiation chamber, a circular room with a domed ceiling that displayed real-time images of the galaxy. Around the chamber sat representatives from the major coalition powers. The Vortak, with their metallic exoskeletons and glowing red eyes, dominated one section. Their species had been the military backbone of the coalition for centuries, and they viewed humanity's rapid expansion as a direct threat to galactic order. Across from them sat the elegant seraphim, beings of pure energy who had taken humanoid forms for the occasion. Their leader, Archon Luminous, regarded Elena with what might have been amusement. The seraphim considered themselves the intellectual superior of all other species and had been the ones to initially suggest that humanity should be contained to their home system. The third major faction present were the Kethmori, ancient reptilian beings whose empire had once spanned half the galaxy. Though their power had waned over the millennia, they still commanded immense respect and served as the coalition's primary lawmakers and judges. Their representative, Elder Zask, watched the proceedings with cold, calculating eyes. Elena took her place at the designated human section, noting how small and isolated it appeared compared to the vast areas allocated to the coalition species. The message was clear: humanity was here as a supplicant, not an equal. High Counselor Vexthera, a towering Vortak with scars covering half his exoskeleton, stood to address the assembly. His voice boomed through the chamber's translation system, converting his guttural native language into dozens of others simultaneously. We gather here today to address the chaos that the species known as humans has brought to our peaceful galaxy, he began, his red eyes fixed on Elena. In merely 6 decades since achieving interstellar capability, they have colonized 43 worlds, established trade routes through sovereign coalition space, and repeatedly refused to acknowledge our authority over territories we have protected for centuries. Elder Zask's forked tongue flicked out as he spoke next. The human expansion has been unprecedented and illegal. They have settled on worlds within our protected zones, mined resources from systems under coalition jurisdiction, and, worst of all, they have armed themselves with weapons technology that violates 17 different interstellar treaties. Archon Luminous shimmered as his energy form shifted. Perhaps most disturbing is their refusal to submit to proper genetic and cultural evaluation. Every species that joins galactic civilization must first prove their worthiness through our standardized tests. Humans have repeatedly declined this process, claiming it violates their principles of self-determination. Elena stood slowly, knowing that this moment would define not just the negotiations, but possibly the future of her entire species. Honored representatives of the coalition, humanity comes here today seeking peaceful coexistence, not submission. We have expanded into uninhabited systems and brought life to dead worlds. Our trade routes have actually increased prosperity in the regions we've entered. As for weapons, we have armed ourselves only in response to repeated attacks on our colonies and shipping. High Counselor Vexthera's mandibles clicked in what Elena recognized as barely controlled anger. You speak of attacks, yet your species has destroyed 16 coalition patrol vessels and killed thousands of our personnel. In self-defense, Elena replied firmly. Every incident you mention was initiated when coalition forces attempted to blockade human ships or assault our colonies without provocation. We have never fired the first shot. Because you are primitives who do not understand galactic law. Vexthera slammed his armored fist on his podium. For over 2,000 years, the Coalition has maintained order in this galaxy. We decide which species are ready for interstellar civilization. We determine territorial boundaries. We regulate trade and technology transfer. Your kind refuses to accept these basic facts of galactic life. Elena felt her diplomatic training warring with her growing anger. She had spent months preparing for this moment, studying every aspect of coalition law and history. What she had discovered made her question whether peace was even possible. With respect, High Counselor, what you call galactic law appears to be nothing more than a system designed to maintain your species' dominance. The Coalition's evaluation process has rejected 63 species for membership over the past millennium. Of those, 37 were subsequently conquered and enslaved, 21 were driven to extinction, and 5 were forcibly relocated to prison worlds. The evaluation process isn't about worthiness, it's about identifying threats to your power. The chamber erupted into angry chittering, roaring, and energy fluctuations as Coalition representatives reacted to Elena's words. Elder Zask raised his clawed hand for silence. You dare to lecture us on our own history, primitive? Your species has existed in space for mere decades. We have maintained galactic civilization for millennia. The species you mention were rejected because they were violent, unstable, or incompatible with peaceful coexistence. Like the Eldorians? Elena asked quietly. A species of peaceful traders whose only crime was developing better faster than light engines than yours? They were classified as technologically dangerous and their entire race was sterilized. Or the Chuvel, who were deemed mentally incompatible because they refused to worship the Seraphim as living gods? Archon luminous energy form flared brightly. Enough! Your kind knows nothing of the complexities of governing a galaxy. The Chuvel were a hive mind species that could not function in an individualistic galactic society. The Eldorians' technology was advancing too rapidly to safely integrate. These decisions were made for the greater good. Whose greater good? Elena shot back. The 47 species currently in the Coalition, or the hundreds that have been eliminated over the centuries? Your greater good seems to benefit only those already in power. High Counselor Vexthera stood again, his scarred exoskeleton gleaming menacingly. You prove our point with every word, human. Your species is arrogant, aggressive, and unwilling to accept proper authority. You have been brought here to receive terms of surrender, not to debate galactic governance. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Terms of surrender? This was supposed to be a peace negotiation. Elder Zask's cold reptilian laugh filled the chamber. Did you truly believe you had any choice in this matter? Your species controls 43 worlds against our thousands. Your fleet numbers in the hundreds against our millions. You have perhaps 50 million armed personnel against our billions. This is not a negotiation between equals. Elena felt the blood drain from her face as the reality of the situation became clear. Around her, her fellow diplomats and military advisors exchanged grim looks. They had walked into a trap. Here are our terms, Vexthera continued. All human colonies beyond your home system will be evacuated within 1 standard year. Your faster-than-light capability will be restricted to Coalition-approved vessels operating under our oversight. All human military forces will be disbanded except for a small planetary defense force on Earth itself. Your species will submit to full genetic and cultural evaluation, with the understanding that failure will result in permanent quarantine to your home system. And, if we refuse? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Then, the Coalition will implement a military solution, Zask replied coldly. Your choice is simple, voluntary compliance or forcible compliance. Either way, the human expansion ends here and now. Elena looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. In their eyes, whether they were organic, energy-based, or mechanical, she saw the same thing, absolute certainty that humanity had no choice but to submit. They had never intended to negotiate. This entire process was designed to give their conquest a veneer of legitimacy. I need time to consult with my government, Elena said finally. You have 72 hours, Vexthera replied. After that, our fleets begin moving toward human space. Choose wisely. As Elena and her delegation were escorted back to their quarters, her mind raced through possibilities. Earth's government would never accept these terms, nor should they. But the military reality was stark. The coalition possessed overwhelming numerical superiority and technology that was centuries ahead of humanity's best weapons. That night, Elena sat in her temporary quarters staring out at the alien stars, thinking about humanity's long journey to reach this point. From their first tentative steps beyond Earth to the bold colonization efforts that had spread human civilization across 43 worlds, her species had always been driven by an irrepressible urge to explore, to grow, to push beyond every boundary. The coalition representatives thought they understood humanity, but Elena realized they had made a fundamental error. They saw humans as just another species to be catalogued, controlled, and ultimately absorbed or eliminated. They didn't understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers, it was their refusal to accept the impossible. A soft chime indicated an incoming message from Earth. Elena activated the secure communication system and found herself looking at President Chen, along with Defense Minister Kowalski and Science Advisor Dr. Reyes. Even across interstellar distances, she could see the determination in their faces. Ambassador Vasquez, President Chen began, "We've received your preliminary report. The terms are unacceptable. I understand, Madam President, but our military assessment suggests that conventional resistance would be futile. The coalition's numerical superiority is overwhelming." Defense Minister Kowalski leaned forward. "Elena, there's something you need to know. For the past 3 years, while we've been trying to negotiate, our scientists have been working on contingency plans. Dr. Reyes has some information you need to hear." Dr. Reyes, a slight woman in her 60s who had been humanity's leading theoretical physicist for decades, looked grave as she spoke. "Ambassador, we've been analyzing every piece of coalition technology we've encountered, every energy signature, every quantum resonance pattern. We've discovered something that changes everything." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of discovery? The coalition species, despite their apparent differences, all share certain fundamental characteristics at the quantum level. Their consciousness, their energy patterns, their very life force, it all operates on specific frequencies. Frequencies that we've learned to isolate and disrupt. "What are you saying, Doctor?" President Chen's expression was grave as she continued. "Elena, we've developed a weapon. Not just any weapon, but something that could potentially target the quantum foundations of coalition biology itself. It's completely untested on a large scale, and the ethical implications are staggering, but it might be the only thing that could level the playing field," Defense Minister Kowalski finished. Elena stared at the screen, trying to process what she was hearing. "You're talking about a weapon of mass destruction unlike anything that's ever existed." "We're talking about survival," President Chen replied firmly. "The coalition has made it clear that humanity's only choices are submission or extermination. They've given us 72 hours to surrender everything our species has built over the past 60 years. We won't do it." Dr. Reyes leaned closer to her camera. "Elena, I need you to understand something. This weapon, if deployed, wouldn't just target military forces. The quantum frequencies we've identified are fundamental to coalition biology. If we're forced to use it, it would be genocide," Elena whispered. "Yes," President Chen said quietly. "It would be. But they've made it clear that the alternative is the slow death of human civilization. I'm authorizing you to present them with a counteroffer. Full withdrawal from human space and recognition of our sovereignty, or we demonstrate exactly why some species should never be backed into a corner." Elena closed the connection and sat in the darkness, weighing the impossible choice before her. Tomorrow, she would return to the negotiation chamber and deliver humanity's response. She thought about the hundreds of millions of humans spread across 43 worlds, all depending on what happened in the next few days. The coalition representatives thought they held all the cards. They believed that humanity's primitive technology and small numbers made them irrelevant in the grand scheme of galactic politics. Elena almost pitied them. Throughout their history, humans had been consistently underestimated by those who confused technological advancement with wisdom, and numbers with strength. As dawn broke over Zephyria Prime's crystal spires, Elena prepared for the most important day in human history. The Coalition had demanded humanity's surrender, expecting fear and compliance. Instead, they were about to learn why the most dangerous animal was often the one with nothing left to lose. The peace talks had failed before they truly began. Now, it was time to show the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when their backs were against the wall. Elena walked into the negotiation chamber with a confidence that surprised even herself. The weight of humanity's decision pressed down on her shoulders, but she felt strangely calm. Behind her, Colonel Martinez and Dr. Sarah Chen, a quantum physicist who had arrived on the overnight transport from Earth, flanked her as she approached the human delegation area. The Coalition representatives were already assembled, their postures radiating smug satisfaction. High Counselor Vexthera's scarred exoskeleton caught the light from the dome's stellar display, while Elder Zask's ancient eyes tracked Elena's movement with predatory focus. Archon Luminous energy form pulsed with what seemed like amusement. Ambassador Vasquez, Vexthera's voice boomed across the chamber. We trust you have had sufficient time to consider our generous terms. Your government's response? Elena activated her translation device and stood slowly. High Counselor, representatives of the Coalition, I bring you humanity's official response to your ultimatum. Ultimatum? Zask hissed. We prefer to call it a peaceful resolution to an unfortunate situation. Of course you do, Elena replied dryly. You've had a lot of practice making conquest sound diplomatic. But, let me be very clear about humanity's position, we reject your terms in their entirety. The chamber erupted in what Elena was learning to recognize as Coalition expressions of shock and outrage. Vexthera's mandibles clicked rapidly while several Seraphim representatives flared so brightly that the chamber's lighting systems automatically dimmed to compensate. Impossible. Zask rose from his position, his reptilian tail lashing behind him. You cannot be serious. Your species cannot survive what would follow such foolishness. Elena reached into her briefcase and withdrew a small, crystalline device that immediately drew every eye in the chamber. Actually, Elder Zask, we believe we can. Dr. Chen, would you care to explain what our friends here are looking at? Dr. Chen stepped forward, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. What you're seeing is a quantum resonance disruptor. Our analysis of Coalition biology over the past 3 years has revealed something interesting about your species. Despite your apparent diversity, you all share certain fundamental quantum frequencies that define your consciousness and life force. Archon Luminous energy form flickered. Impossible. Our species evolved on different worlds, under different conditions, across millions of years. There can be no common frequency. Actually, there can, Dr. Chen continued. Because you didn't evolve naturally. Your archaeological records, the ones you've been so careful to keep from younger species, tell a different story. All 47 Coalition species were created or modified by the same ancient civilization. The predecessors left quantum signatures in your genetic structure, energy patterns that identify you as their creations. The silence that followed was absolute. Elena watched as the Coalition representatives exchanged glances filled with something she had never seen from them before, genuine fear. Vexthera was the first to recover. Even if this fantasy were true, what could one primitive device accomplish against billions of Coalition citizens? Elena smiled grimly. This isn't the weapon, High Counselor. This is just the targeting system. Colonel Martinez? The Colonel activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. 3 hours ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual activity in the Kepler 442 system. Dr. Chen, would you like to explain what they found? Dr. Chen's expression was grave as she continued. We've constructed a quantum cascade generator using a neutron star as our power source. The device is currently in position at the edge of Coalition space, drawing energy from stellar collapse and converting it into targeted quantum disruptive waves. The beauty of quantum mechanics is that once you understand the underlying frequencies, distance becomes irrelevant. Elder Zask's voice was barely a whisper. You're describing a weapon that could affect every coalition species simultaneously across the entire galaxy. That's exactly what we're describing, Elena confirmed. And, before you suggest that such a weapon would affect humans as well, you should know that we've tested it thoroughly. Human quantum signatures are completely different from yours. We evolved naturally, without predecessor interference. The frequencies that would disrupt coalition biology have no effect on us whatsoever. Vexthera's scarred exoskeleton was trembling with rage. This is madness. You're talking about committing genocide against 47 species. No, Elena replied coldly. We're talking about survival. For 3 years, you've attacked our colonies, killed our people, and threatened our very existence. Yesterday, you demanded we surrender everything we've built and submit to evaluation that you've already decided we'll fail. You've given us every reason to believe that peaceful coexistence is impossible. Archon luminous energy form was fluctuating wildly now. You cannot be serious about actually using such a weapon. The ethical implications alone are exactly what we hoped you'd consider, Dr. Chen interjected. Which is why we're making you a counteroffer. Complete withdrawal of all coalition forces from human space. Recognition of human sovereignty over our current territory. And establishment of a non-interference treaty that guarantees our right to peaceful expansion into uninhabited systems. The chamber fell silent except for the various sounds of coalition biology, clicking, hissing, and energy fluctuations that translated into barely controlled panic. Elena watched as the 3 major faction leaders conferred in hushed tones with their advisors. Finally, Vexthera spoke. You expect us to believe that your species would actually commit genocide to maintain your independence? Elena thought about the hundreds of human worlds, each filled with families who had risked everything to build new lives among the stars. She thought about the children being born on colonies that the coalition wanted to destroy, and the dreams of exploration that had driven humanity to reach for the stars in the first place. High Counselor, let me tell you something about humanity that your evaluation process would never have discovered. We are not a naturally aggressive species. We prefer cooperation to conflict, trade to warfare, diplomacy to destruction. But we have one characteristic that you've consistently underestimated: when our survival is threatened, there is absolutely nothing we won't do to protect our own. She gestured to the holographic display showing the neutron star weapon. This device represents 3 years of our best scientific minds working around the clock. We've invested resources that could have built 100 new colonies. We've diverted talent from exploration to destruction. Do you know why? Enlighten us, Zask hissed. Because you taught us that in this galaxy, peaceful species don't survive. You've shown us your archives, remember? 63 species evaluated and rejected. Most of them dead. All of them erased from galactic civilization. You created this weapon by making it clear that diplomacy with the coalition is just a prelude to conquest. Colonel Martinez stepped forward. Our deep space sensors have also detected coalition fleet movements toward human space. 17 battle groups, consisting of over 4,000 ships. Your military is already mobilizing for war while your diplomats pretend to negotiate. That tells us everything we need to know about coalition sincerity. Vexthera's red eyes blazed. Those movements are purely defensive. Your species has proven itself dangerous and unpredictable. Dangerous to whom? Elena shot back. We've never attacked coalition civilians. We've never invaded your worlds. We've never demanded that you submit to our authority or face extinction. Everything we've done has been in direct response to your aggression. She activated another display showing casualty figures from 3 years of conflict. Coalition forces have killed over 200,000 human civilians in unprovoked attacks on our colonies. Your patrol vessels have fired on unarmed cargo ships carrying food and medicine to frontier worlds. Your blockades have prevented medical supplies from reaching human settlements during plague outbreaks. Regrettable incidents, Zask said dismissively. The price of maintaining galactic order. Regrettable? Elena's voice rose despite her efforts to maintain diplomatic composure. You're talking about families, High Counselor. Children who died because your order was more important than letting medical supplies through your blockades. Dr. Chen activated another holographic display, this one showing quantum energy readings from across coalition space. What you're seeing here is the current status of our weapon system. The quantum cascade generator is fully charged and locked onto coalition biological frequencies. We have the capability to activate it immediately. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Elena watched the coalition representatives as the full scope of humanity's position became clear to them. For the first time in their species' histories, they were not the ones holding the ultimate threat. Archon Luminous finally spoke, his energy form subdued. What guarantee do we have that you won't use this weapon even if we agree to your terms? The same guarantee we have that you won't simply regroup and attack us again once this crisis passes, Elena replied. Mutual assured destruction has a certain elegant simplicity to it. We can't conquer your thousands of worlds, but we can ensure that any attempt to conquer ours results in the end of coalition civilization. This is insane, Vexthara growled. Your species has existed in space for barely 60 years. You think you understand galactic politics well enough to threaten civilizations that have existed for millennia? We understand survival politics, Colonel Martinez interjected. And we understand that predators only respond to strength. You've spent 3 years trying to prove that humans are too weak to deserve independence. We're here to demonstrate exactly how wrong you are. Elena pulled up another display, this one showing human expansion patterns and resource utilization. Look at what we've accomplished in 60 years, High Counselor. We've turned dead worlds into thriving colonies. We've established trade networks that have increased prosperity everywhere they've reached. We've contributed technology and knowledge that has benefited even some coalition species. And yet you refuse to submit to proper evaluation and integration, Zask countered. You insist on maintaining your independence rather than joining galactic civilization. Because your version of galactic civilization requires us to abandon everything that makes us human, Elena replied. We've read your evaluation criteria. Species that show too much independence are classified as ungovernable. Those with strong survival instincts are deemed aggressively expansionist. Those who refuse to worship your ancient technologies are considered primitive and marked for cultural destruction. She gestured around the chamber. You call this civilization, but it's really just empire with better marketing. You maintain order by eliminating anyone who might challenge your authority. You preserve peace by destroying anyone who might upset your careful balance of power. Dr. Chen stepped forward again. The quantum cascade weapon gives us something we've never had before, the ability to guarantee our independence regardless of your numerical superiority. You can't conquer us without destroying yourselves in the process. And, you truly believe your species would commit such an atrocity? Zask asked. Elena thought about the question seriously before answering. Elder Zask, in our history, humans have done terrible things when faced with extinction. We've destroyed our own cities rather than let enemies take them. We've poisoned our own land rather than surrender it to invaders. When faced with a choice between death and dishonor, humans have consistently chosen to die fighting. She paused, looking around at the assembled coalition representatives. But, we've also shown incredible mercy to defeated enemies. We've rebuilt the cities of those who attacked us. We've shared technology with former adversaries. We prefer cooperation to domination, which is why we're here offering you a choice rather than simply activating the weapon. Vexthara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. What happens if we agree to your terms? How do we know you won't simply demand more concessions once you've proven your weapon works? Because unlike the Coalition, we don't actually want to rule the galaxy, Elena replied. We want to be left alone to explore, to grow, to build the kind of civilization we choose. We want trade relationships and cultural exchange, not conquest and domination. Colonel Martinez activated a final display showing proposed territorial boundaries. These are our terms: Coalition withdrawal from all systems within 50 light-years of current human territory. Recognition of human sovereignty over our 43 current colonies and any uninhabited systems we choose to settle in the future. Establishment of neutral trade zones where our species can interact on equal terms.
And, in return? Archon Luminous asked.
We dismantle the quantum cascade weapon and share the scientific discoveries that made it possible, Dr. Chen replied. Not the weapon technology itself, but the underlying quantum physics.
It could revolutionize coalition science if applied to peaceful purposes. The chamber fell silent as coalition representatives considered the offer. Elena knew that their entire civilization hung in the balance of the next few minutes.
Either they would find a way to coexist peacefully, or they would discover just how far humans were willing to go to survive.
High Counselor Vexthera finally stood. We will need time to consult with our respective governments.
You have 24 hours, Elena replied firmly. After that, we'll assume you've chosen to test our resolve rather than accept our terms. As the coalition representatives filed out of the chamber, Elena felt the weight of what she had just done. Humanity had just threatened genocide to preserve their freedom. Whether that made them monsters or heroes would depend entirely on what happened next. But one thing was certain, the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.
The 24 hours passed like an eternity.
Elena spent most of it in her quarters, receiving constant updates from Earth about coalition fleet movements and emergency diplomatic communications between coalition worlds. The quantum cascade weapon remained at full readiness, its neutron star power source churning with enough energy to reshape galactic civilization. Dr. Chen had barely slept, monitoring quantum resonance patterns across coalition space and fine-tuning targeting parameters. It's remarkable, she told Elena during one of their brief meetings. We're picking up panic communications across their entire network. Some worlds are already beginning evacuations, though I'm not sure where they think they can go. Colonel Martinez brought more sobering news. Coalition military forces are taking defensive positions around their core worlds, but they're also continuing to advance toward human space. It appears they're hoping to present us with a fait accompli, capture our colonies before we can activate the weapon. How long before their fleets reach our outer colonies? Elena asked. 6 hours, maybe 7. The Proxima Centauri settlements will be the first to face attack. Elena stared out at the alien stars of Zephyria Prime, knowing that millions of human families were going about their daily lives, unaware that their civilization balanced on a knife's edge. Children were attending school on New Geneva. Farmers were harvesting crops on Kepler 438b. Scientists were making discoveries that could benefit all of galactic civilization if they lived long enough to share them. A soft chime indicated that the coalition representatives were returning to the negotiation chamber. Elena gathered her team and walked through the crystal corridors one final time, knowing that whatever happened in the next hour would echo through history for millennia to come. The chamber felt different now. The atmosphere was charged with tension and barely suppressed fear. High Counselor Vexthera's normally confident bearing seemed subdued, while Elder Zask's ancient eyes held a wariness that spoke of genuine concern for his species' survival. Even Archon Luminous' energy form appeared more contained, less radiant than before. Ambassador Vasquez, Vexthera began, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone. The coalition has considered your proposal. We find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. Elena remained standing, her hand resting near the quantum resonance device. Have you reached a decision, High Counselor? Zask's forked tongue flicked nervously as he spoke. Your species has presented us with an impossible choice. Surrender our authority over galactic civilization or face extinction. Surely you understand that no government can accept such terms. Really? Elena replied calmly. Because that's exactly what you demanded of us. The difference is that we're offering you survival as an alternative. Archon Luminous pulsed dimly as he communicated. You speak of survival, but what you're really offering is the destruction of galactic order. For 2 millennia, the coalition has maintained peace across thousands of worlds. Your independence would encourage other species to challenge our authority. Dr. Chen stepped forward with a new holographic display. Actually, your records show 47 major wars, 16 genocides, and countless smaller conflicts during your period of galactic peace. What you've maintained isn't peace, it's the absence of effective resistance. Those conflicts were necessary to preserve the greater good, Vexthera protested, but his voice lacked conviction. The greater good of the coalition, Colonel Martinez corrected. Not the greater good of galactic civilization. You've eliminated every species that might have contributed different ideas, different approaches, different solutions to galactic problems.
Elena activated another display showing humanity's technological contributions.
In 60 years, human innovation has advanced faster than light communication, improved resource extraction efficiency by 300%, and developed medical treatments that could extend lifespans for multiple coalition species.
How many other innovations have you lost by destroying their creators? The coalition representatives exchanged glances that seemed to carry entire conversations.
Elena realized that her arguments were having an effect, but not necessarily the one she had hoped for.
Zask finally spoke. Your technological advancement only proves our point.
Your species develops too rapidly, thinks too independently. You represent exactly the kind of chaos that the predecessors designed us to prevent.
The predecessors? Elena felt a chill run down her spine.
Dr. Chen mentioned them before, but I thought they were extinct. They are, Luminous replied. But their final directive remains active in our base programming. We were created to maintain stability, to prevent the rise of species that might repeat their mistakes.
Dr. Chen's eyes widened with understanding.
That's why all your quantum frequencies are synchronized. You're not just descendant species, you're still following ancient programming designed to suppress innovation and independence. Vexthera's mandibles clicked rapidly.
The predecessors nearly destroyed the galaxy with their experiments.
They created weapons that could unmake reality itself, technologies that bend space and time beyond recognition. In the end, their own innovations consumed them, leaving only dead worlds and shattered star systems. So you've spent 2,000 years making sure no other species could achieve what they achieved, Elena said slowly.
You're not maintaining civilization, you're maintaining stagnation. We are maintaining survival, Zask hissed. The predecessor's final message was clear: advanced technology in the hands of uncontrolled species leads inevitably to galactic catastrophe. Elena felt the pieces clicking into place. But humans weren't created by the predecessors. We evolved naturally, which means we're not bound by their programming. That's what really scares you, isn't it? We're proof that intelligent life can advance without destroying itself. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena could see in their expressions, mechanical, biological, and energy-based, that she had struck at the heart of their deepest fears. Colonel Martinez checked his tactical display. Coalition fleets are 90 minutes from our outer colonies. Whatever we're going to do, we need to decide now. Vexthera stood slowly. The coalition cannot accept your terms. To do so would violate our core programming and potentially lead to the same catastrophe that destroyed our creators. We will not risk galactic destruction for the independence of one species. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach. Even if that means your own extinction? Even so, Luminous confirmed. Better that all current galactic civilization perish than risk another predecessor-level catastrophe. Dr. Chen stared at her readings in disbelief. You're choosing suicide over the possibility that we might succeed where they failed. We are choosing responsibility, Zask replied firmly. Your weapon proves our point. In mere decades, you've developed technology that could destroy every coalition species simultaneously. How long before you advance to predecessor levels of power? How long before your experiments tear apart the fabric of space itself? Elena realized that no amount of negotiation would change their minds. The coalition species weren't just following political policies, they were following genetic programming that made compromise impossible. They literally could not allow humanity to remain independent, no matter the cost. Colonel Martinez, she said quietly. Please transmit final evacuation orders to all human colonies in the projected combat zones. Evacuations are already complete, he replied. All civilian populations have been relocated to inter-system defensive positions. Elena turned back to the coalition representatives. High Counselor,
You're forcing us to choose between extinction and genocide. That's not a choice any species should have to make. Yet it is the choice we all face, Vexthera replied. Your independence or galactic stability. We have made our decision. Elena looked around the chamber one final time, memorizing the faces of the representatives who had condemned their own species to death rather than risk humanity's success. Dr. Chen, activate the quantum cascade weapon. Elena, wait. Dr. Chen's voice was strained. I'm picking up something unusual on the deep space scanners. There's a massive quantum signature approaching the system. Coalition reinforcements? Colonel Martinez asked. No, this signature is completely different. It's older. Much older. The chamber's dome suddenly blazed with new light as something vast materialized in the space above Zephyria Prime. Elena gasped as she saw it, a ship unlike anything in Coalition or human records. It was easily 50 kilometers long, constructed from materials that seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime, and it radiated energy patterns that made the quantum cascade weapon look like a child's toy. A new voice filled the chamber, speaking in harmonics that bypassed the translation systems entirely and communicated directly with their minds. Descendant species. Creator species. Cease your conflicts. The coalition representatives fell to the floor as one, their various biologies overwhelmed by what Elena suddenly realized was the return of their creators. The predecessors weren't extinct, they had been watching, waiting, evaluating whether galactic civilization was ready for their return. We are the predecessors, the voice continued. We have monitored your development for 2 millennia. Our children have maintained stability as directed, but they have also prevented growth. You, human species, represent something new. Something we did not create. Elena found her voice despite the overwhelming presence. You're here to judge us? We are here to choose. Our children follow programming we created in fear, after our civilization nearly destroyed itself through reckless advancement. But, you have developed independently, achieved innovation without catastrophe. You represent a path we never considered, natural evolution rather than engineered creation. The ship's presence intensified, and Elena could feel the vast intelligence examining every aspect of human civilization in moments. You have created a weapon capable of destroying our children, yet you chose negotiation over immediate attack. You threatened genocide to preserve your people, yet you also offered to share your discoveries peacefully. You embody the paradox we could never resolve, the balance between advancement and restraint. What does that mean for us? Elena asked. It means the test is complete. Our children were never meant to rule forever. They were meant to maintain civilization until a naturally evolved species could prove capable of responsible advancement. You have passed where we failed. The coalition representatives were beginning to stir, their programmed loyalty warring with the reality of their creator's return. Vexthera managed to speak. Masters, these humans are dangerous. They have developed weapons that could destroy us all. As did we, child. The difference is that they chose to use their weapon as a deterrent rather than a tool of conquest. They sought coexistence rather than domination. They represent what we might have become if we had chosen wisdom over power. Elena felt the enormous weight of galactic history shifting around them. What happens now? Now our children learn to coexist with species they were programmed to suppress. The age of enforced stability ends. The age of guided growth begins. Your weapon will not be needed, our children will withdraw from human space and accept your independence. And the coalition? Elena asked. Will adapt or perish according to their own choices. We will no longer mandate their survival through the suppression of others. The galaxy will grow again, change again, advance again. Some species will thrive. Others will fall. Such is the nature of true civilization. The predecessor ship began to fade, its mission apparently complete. One final gift, human species. The knowledge to advance safely, without repeating our mistakes. Use it wisely. As the ship disappeared, Elena felt a flood of information entering her mind, technologies beyond human imagination, but tempered with the wisdom to use them responsibly. Around her, the coalition representatives were struggling to comprehend a galaxy where their ancient purpose had been fulfilled and their dominance had ended. High Counselor Vexthera slowly stood, his scarred exoskeleton somehow looking smaller than before. It seems our evaluation was incomplete. The predecessors have spoken. Elena deactivated the quantum cascade weapon, knowing it would never be needed. High Counselor, we can build something better than what came before. Humans and coalition species working together, growing together, without anyone forced to surrender their identity or independence. Zask's ancient eyes held a weariness that spoke of millennia of enforced stagnation finally ending. It will not be easy. Our programming runs deep. All evolution is difficult, Elena replied. But the alternative is extinction, yours, ours, or everyone's. I'd rather face an uncertain future than a guaranteed death. As Elena prepared to return to human space with news of their unexpected victory, she reflected on the strange twists that had brought them to this point. Humanity had prepared for war and found peace. They had threatened destruction and achieved liberation. Most importantly, they had proven that sometimes the greatest strength lay not in the willingness to use terrible power, but in the wisdom to know when not to use it. The galaxy would never be the same. But, for the first time in 2,000 years, it would be free to discover what it could become.